I challenge you to play Boil 'em Cabbage Down this fast. No, I'm just joking. Whoa, I needed to blink there. All right, let's get started. You might notice today that you really can't see the body of the banjo, and that's because we're going to be looking at our fingers here and mainly our fret hand. Now before we get started, I want to show you something. You might be able to see it right there. I've got a little cut. Don't be alarmed, that was from my son. Kids do not fight by the rules whenever you are wrestling. That is a side note. Now let's get started. I've got a few questions for you. Are you experiencing finger pain whenever you play the banjo? Is the finger pain so bad that it makes you not want to play the banjo as much? Are your practice times greatly reduced because your fingers hurt so bad? Does it feel like you're never forming calluses on your fingers? Are you considering quitting the banjo because your fingers hurt so bad? Are you frustrated that you seem to go nowhere because your fingers hurt? Are your fingers hurting a bigger distraction than trying to learn a banjo song? If you said yes to any or all of these questions, I've got good news for you. You are in a rather large club called All Banjo Players, because we've all experienced this at one time or another. That's just the way it is. But I'm here to offer hope, my friends. You can be helped in this area because this is something that I struggled with, that finally I figured out a couple of things that helped me and then have helped my students really. And what I want to do is I want to give you 5 quick tips to help you, no pun intended with the 5 tips, to help you play the banjo pain-free. I've got another video about this similar subject on the guitar, but the banjo is a little bit different. The strings aren't as thick on the fretboard here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 5 tips super fast, and then let me know what you think in the comments. Here we go. Okay, you might notice that I've just got the fretboard up here, so I'm not going to really show my pick hand that much. And what we're going to do is we're just going to focus in on our left hand here, or you might be a left-handed banjo player. We'll just call it our fret hand. Okay, so we've got our fret fingers right there, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at 5 quick tips. The first tip is we need to work on our calluses. That's the secret with banjo playing, is your left hand here. The calluses mean everything for your left hand. It's just the way it is. If you do not have calluses on your left hand, playing the banjo is going to be much harder, much more frustrating. We have to start developing those calluses right away. We have to work on our calluses. Why? Because when the calluses develop, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to play the banjo with little to any effort. I can come up here and I can make a chord, C chord, F chord. It's nothing. I'm barely pushing down. When I learned that back in the day, I had to really crank down to try to get those, and the slides really hurt. Now I can play a slide, and it rings true. We hear that nice resonation all the way through. I guess resonation is a word. There we go. It sustains, and that's from having good calluses. What we want to do is we want to focus on those. Now, how are we going to work on our calluses? Well, you can work on your calluses by playing the banjo and by doing slide exercises. Those are really good, and it hurts, but it's okay because then the more you do it, the better your calluses get. But there's a couple of other things we can do as well. You can take a finger pick right here and you can push that in on your calluses, push down, or take your thumbnail. I've even got a guitar pick over here. I used to carry one of these, and I would push on my finger. I just got used to doing that. When I was in school, I would take my thumb and I would just push down on my fingers there, and I got used to working on those calluses. Even whenever I wasn't playing the banjo at all, I was still working on those calluses. As soon as we get those calluses in, that's the number one thing that is going to stop the pain and the discomfort from us fretting the banjo. If you're enjoying this, will you do me a favor? Will you hit like and subscribe? And then if you have the time, would you please share it with a friend or someone you know who this information could be good for them. Maybe they haven't started an instrument yet, or maybe they are struggling with one and you know they need this information. Just share it with them if you get a chance. Hit like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Let's get right back to it. The second thing that we see is we need to cut our nails. Yes, you need to cut your nails. They need to be short. Now for me, my nails grow very, very fast. I have to cut mine once a week at least, and it's just the way it is. Some people are like that. And what I do is I cut them, I keep them nice and flat as I can, and I want it to be able to move across the fretboard. Now if my nails are longer, what's going to happen is that nail is going to hit that fretboard and it's going to stop the pad of my finger from connecting with that string all the way. I want to be able to push down on the fretboard and not have to worry about my fingernails stopping my finger from pushing down all the way. If you start playing the banjo, guitar, mandolin, doesn't matter what it is, and your fingernails on your fret hand are too long, it will be frustrating, and it will also hurt because you're not able to build those calluses quicker. So what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be swimming upstream. It's going to take a lot longer to develop those calluses. So let's develop the calluses by cutting our nails, keeping the fret hand nails nice and short. The next thing that we see is we need to use light strings. Now you can use ultra lights. Those are really popular. I like to use lights myself. Here are the Elixir, the Polyweb. I think guitars have the Nano Web. Don't use the Interweb because those do not exist. But these strings are really, really good. These are the light strings. And what that does is that just means that the string has a lighter gauge, meaning it's a thinner string. You can get the custom light, the ultra light, like I said, and those will be easier on your fingers. You don't have to push down as hard with those. You don't want to get a heavier string because then you're going to be hurting pretty bad. So go to the music store or see what kind of strings you have on. I'm not sure if there's a way to measure your strings just by looking at them. Typically, if you've been playing for a while, you can just tell. But pick up some light strings or some extra light or ultra light strings, and that'll really, really help you along the way. The next thing that we see is we need to cut our practice time in half. Take a time cleaver and chop it. So we're going to completely do away with the long practice sessions. A lot of times long practice sessions can lead to bad habits and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of sitting down and practicing for an hour. Maybe I'll do a video sometime on how I practice the banjo and some of the more effective routines that I've found. But what we need to do is if your fingers are wearing out, we need to drop the practice time. Cut it in half. If you practice for 15 minutes, practice for 7-8 minutes and then leave it at that. Let your fingers rest for a little bit. Come back later. Allow those calluses to build. Playing it for an extended period of time can really become frustrating after a while, and we don't want that. We don't want to turn practice time into frustration time. So let's cut the practice time in half while we build our calluses. And the last thing that we see is to get our fingers over the strings. And you're like, well, wait a minute, of course they go over the strings. I understand it. But what we want to do is we want to make sure our fingers are not buckling. We want to get them over the strings. So if I'm playing the banjo here, and I've got my fingers here, what I want to do is if my fingers are buckling, I'm having to push down a lot harder. And then I'm getting some buzzing on the other strings. I want to make sure my fingers come up and over the strings and then down on the strings. So that way I get this look right there. There we go. I'm coming down on the strings. That way my finger is making contact with that string, directly down on that string. And here's a side note. This is I think a really, really good pointer for people, especially who are starting out on the banjo or they're not getting the sound on the banjo. Here's a little secret for you. If you push down on those strings and your fingers are pointed back towards you and not like this, you don't want them pointed up above you. Point your fingernails back towards you. So when I'm playing, my fingers are actually coming back towards me. That's actually going to be a lot easier to play. I'm not straining my hand by turning my wrist down and pointing my fingers away from me. Open up that palm some, relax your hand, allow your fingers to come straight down on those strings, okay? And we're going to get a better sound out of that. You cannot have fully developed calluses, but if you're playing directly down on that string, if you've got all that pressure coming down as opposed to buckling, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to begin to get a really good sound out of that. It's going to make your fingers thank you in the end because you're not fighting against them. So there you go. We need to work on our calluses. We need to cut our nails. We need to use light strings or ultralight strings. We need to cut our practice time in half. And then we need to make sure that our fingers are coming down directly over the strings whenever we are playing them. And those are 5 tips that will help you play the banjo with less pain. Now, like all things, it takes time to get used to that. You're not going to pick it up and learn it right away, but if you start taking the right steps, you will see improvement. I've seen people improve in this area during the first lesson. They came to me with a problem, and in that lesson, they were already experiencing less pain playing the banjo. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Everybody's different. But I want you to give it a try. I want you to tell a friend about it. Share the video with them. And this is where my video froze. Apparently it was like, you're done. Don't you just love technology? Well, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take these practice tips and try them out, and then let me know what you think about them. We will talk soon. Have a great day. Peace out.